protest is happening this coming weekend, and I do want to go as I mourn for what is happening in the east of Congo. But one thing I can't stand is the uncle who comes not to protest but to move to young girls. I'm old enough to be their daughter, and they make me and my friends feel so uncomfortable. It's making me contemplate whether to go to protest or not.
I would like out him. If this like a lot of you use it and you're all uncomfortable, if you out him, you like just expose him.
Nicole, siko nga question ngeza yozo kende protest pona ba tonton ou bien yozo kende kuna pona bien yambuka nao. Elo no linga to establish ni yango.
In our community, there's been many times that people would know of one person doing a particular thing, but they don't necessarily out them. They just all speak on it.
Yeah.
But they never out the person. People would know that a particular person is targeting kids or whatever they are targeting, but people wouldn't do nothing about it. They just speak about it, but they never.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the girl is coming from outside of Africa. So her morals is different from what you see in Africa.
Yes.
So in Africa, there's not really an age restriction on how old you can be or how young you can be. So now she's going to an environment where the culture is different, where you're seen as, let's say, not even available, but you're at that age where an older person can come and move to you. You understand? So then you have to ask yourself them two questions: are they disrespecting you because to them it's normal, or are you unfamiliar with what's happening? Because she didn't say one uncle, but she said the uncles, which means that it's normal to them. So then what do you do in such a situation?
I think it's a bit of a mindset thing.
If your reason for going to the protest is for the protest, you shouldn't worry about what uncle is there.
So see, the uncle's got a different mindset and the children have got a different mindset. So in that kind of situation, it's the uncles that need to adapt to where they now are, because they're no longer in Africa where this behaviour and mindset was acceptable. So if they're coming to the UK, it's these uncles that need to be held accountable and kind of taught that this is no longer appropriate here.
I think the mindset issue is what we're having a problem with here. So, pour l'angai, problème is that tonto bazo kena ba marche wana de bazana mindset oya Afrique. So, ba tonto wana defo ba changer mindset na bango, because now we're in a different country and it's a different mindset that's needed. So they have to adjust. They have to be able to adapt. Mais so bazo na Congo, that mindset is probably more acceptable, and that's where they should be able to feel they're allowed to express themselves in that particular way. Mais down bazana poto is a mindset mususu, so they need to definitely change their mindset.
But if you go back home, that's when you can practice mindset.
You know, even if you go and tell the aunties or you go out there, they still will find a way to blame you. Oh, but what were you wearing? Oh, it's because your breasts are all, my belly knows that you banda, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, this man is doing no good and making us feel uncomfortable.
But adding to that, the way I see it is the Congolese tonton, they will still try it regardless anyway. It could be in someone's house, it could be in a shopping mall, it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Why are you even going to parties and worrying about whose dad and whose uncle you're going to see? You're going there to have fun, worry about that. You shouldn't even be worried about who you're going to meet. In every nationality, there's always going to be uncles and dads, and you just have to know how to maneuver in the situation. Don't entertain it. It's that simple.
So to have that mindset where you don't want to go and do something good for a good cause because you're bothered about these Congolese tontons, is not a good enough reason, because you know what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. So that should not be your mindset. And even if they do try it, you can just be like, hey tonton, please, pardon.
Tala, Nicole, tira kwa mbriye batuko boni boy. So ezaki ba jeune garçon ba âge na mais wana déjà obengi ba Kimberly, obengi ba Natasha kuna boche ba sil wana ya ba 3D soki ba 6D bino kuna kwetele bokei. Pono yoki ba tonton yango komi ba tonton tika batu ba fanda di. So za mposa okende protest pona nini mboka na biso kende. Mais raison la ya ba tonton wana kosi tika bisoto.
Do you think exposing them will help?
Or just telling them off.
They don't.
But
I don't think they will.
That's the point I was trying to say.
When you expose them, he's not gonna stop straight away. He's gonna still do it.
Just someone else.
That's the problem that I was saying. Like a lot, even if some people, one particular person does it a lot, The parents are aware about it. They don't do nothing about it. They just talk about it.
I think exposing the uncles could work, but there's no guarantee. But I do believe to get the solution, you definitely have to expose the uncles. The more you expose them, the more they'll start to change their mindset.
They don't really go to the person and express feelings that what you're doing is wrong.
I think because they're the same generation, that's why. So they're understanding more from a different point of view because they came from that era, even though they don't practice it, but they were born in that generation. So they saw that, and that's what I feel that they kind of support it or lean more towards, let's not expose it, let's just leave it, you know, that's the uncle's family, and not holding those people accountable.
You see, when we talk about parents, understanding the uncles more, you have to remember, that's their generation. Once again, it's a culture clash. They're coming from back home where it's normalized versus you, who's been born into a different society where things are a lot different. So when you talk about siding, trust me, that's like you talking about your friends. Your friends are going to side with you more because you're from the same generation versus your parents who are from the same generation as the uncles. So once again, it's another culture clash, and it's something where both sides have to understand each other.
I think the more you would expose them and the more those parents, you know, try to speak to them as well, that will get them to think. But I think it's because it's a mindset thing, it's hard to change.
But what are you exposing them to? If the girl is over 17,
they're not
what
really...
are you exposing them to?
But you know, there's some...
By law, they're not doing anything wrong.
But
so
you know what?
There's
some parents or family members that, like, I remember my dad used to say it to, like, some of his friends. Not like he didn't trust her, but he'd be like, no, Bana, not there. Like, because he might know what he's like, but yeah, do what you're doing, but not to my children.
That's the problem. But Papa, one and there's a problem. Wana bo yebi ke ba camarade na bino to ba tonton bazo tumbla bana bat me bozo batela o ya bino e bongo oyo ya ba camarade na bino o ba ndeko na bino bo batela ba ote bo pekisa ba uncle ote. That's the problem. We need to stop.
Do you know what I mean? So I feel like there are some parents, you know, that will be like, no, nabana nangati kesa.
And for you to say that means that even that generation, for your father to say that, it means that he's aware of it. So he knows that it's wrong. And if your father knows that it's wrong, then people in his generation, I'm sure there's many people that understand that it's wrong too.
But here's my question. Sorry to cut you off, love. My question is, so if it was someone her age, would it be more acceptable? Is it not acceptable because the person is older? Because if you're going to protest, does it make it okay if someone your age, as they say, was moving to you? Whereas if it was someone older.
Nicole. So like you age now, your age, you'll be the first one, but you see the eyebrows, eyelash, makeup, foundation, what you call the contour. You're there out there running fast, you know. Well, just because it's your age. But you're not doing it for the country, but Tonton, if you're thinking about it, what's the point? Like, you're going there for the country, you're not going there for your age. You're trying to live boy. Like, let's go fix up. Like, this is for your country. Do you
understand?
I think it's the older age thing. I think it's the age. It's the uncle title.
It's not even the age. Sometimes it could be just the fact that you're an uncle, you know.
But would she feel uncomfortable? So is that like he's someone her own age?
No, I don't think so.
I think she should be comfortable.
Yeah, she should be comfortable with that.
But it's uncomfortable because it's someone
older.
You see the problem here? Nicole going to this protest, and if someone her age is to move to her, she will be okay with that. But all of a sudden, because it's Tonton Jean-Pierre, it could be my problem. So Nicole really doesn't have an issue with the person moving to her. It's the age that she has an issue with.
See, but the thing is, so from reading it again, it's definitely like you asked if it was someone her age, would she be fine? So when you look at the way it's been worded, she didn't say I'm uncomfortable with older men. She said uncles. So it's definitely a specific age. You understand? A specific type of male.
I think I agree with you, because I think that when you refer to someone as the uncle, that means someone you relatively know. If it's just a total stranger that may be the same age as the uncle, you might even say yes. But because this family member probably seen you grow up, they know your family of a friend of a family of a friend, that I think is where it's the uncle issues is coming in. But then the second point you mentioned was about
trying to, I think, did you talk about saying a banana ngate, right?
Yeah.
I think so. So let's say you're saying a banana ngate. What about my kids? So what you're saying is you can try this but not here, but that might be coming to my children.
Oh, yeah.
So why can't we just say don't do it at all?
Yeah, but why protect your own? Why protect?
That's what I'm saying. Because you're saying a banana my kid, they'll come to my kids then. It's acceptable to me, but not to you.
But you see, where the issue lies is there's not really full unity in the community.
Okay.
So when you're saying not my kids, you have to remember we're coming from two different cultures. Most of our parents have come from back home where it's acceptable. Even if you look at certain your uncles or aunties or whatever, you see there's a big age difference sometimes. Yeah, someone could be like 10 years, 15 years old or whatever. It's fine. But where we have adopted this Western kind of culture, there's a certain age limit. You understand?
Yeah.
So to them, they used to they've adapted to that. Yeah, and they've come here and they still have the same mindset. Now we have a different mindset, but then the problem lies when there's no communication. So it's like they're not understanding what we're understanding because we've grown up a lot different. So now what has to happen now is there has to be understanding between both generations. Yeah, so then they understand this is how we view things here and this is how you guys view things. There has to be boundaries. But then obviously as a parent yourself, you know, okay, from watching how your child's growing up and then you go see their schools or whatever, you see, okay, the children are growing up different. But then you don't then take that and then apply it to the rest of the community for them to understand, okay, listen, let's adopt the change from this Western society and then, you know, kind of move in that direction, if I'm making sense.
I think I agree with you, especially about, you know, the different generation. I think the age thing, especially when you have children, like you said, growing up in a Western society, they've got a different mindset, and then now there's probably like the communication is not there for the older generation to understand how this is how they're thinking, and vice versa for us to understand that this is how they thought. But I think in topics like this, it's very hard when the two like clash.
This generation thing, I'm not going to accept it. It's got nothing to do with that. There's people in this generation that do it. There's people in the other generation that do it. What we need to respect and do is learn the law of the UK and stop talking to people's kids. Because a lot of you fathers that are doing it are friends with their dads. Stop it.
The older generation need to understand this is an unacceptable behavior to this generation and this environment. But if I go to another country and apply this, I'll get a different result. So I think probably that communication.
Let me ask you some question here in relation to what she's asking. For there to be an understanding of the older generation, is it for then the females of the here and now to bring forth that conversation, or the males of here and now to bring forth that conversation?
I think you look at it two ways. If you're the victim and you want answers, you have to disregard that you're a victim in that moment. You want a solution. But if you're saying it's not my job to educate people, that's fine. But don't complain when the same result keep coming out because you don't want to be involved in making the change of the narrative or getting involved. Because the older generation, sorry to cut you, they're the one inflicting the problem. They don't have an issue with it, and you're the one on the receiving end. So if you want to change, you have to kind of drop the mindset that it's not my job to educate them, they should know. That's not going to change anything in the long run. But it gives you kind of the satisfaction that it's not my problem. But in the long run, you're affected. I don't know.
This is where I feel like if parents who are migrating into countries, the Western world, who have this sort of understanding of the situation, they need to get educated. Because when you're going to a new environment, you have to adapt to it. So it's important for you yourself as well.
Yeah, but a lot of people, sorry to cut you, a lot of people get educated when they do something wrong. So for me, it's like, you know, parents hitting us. I grew up, I got a couple beats, but there's like an example was made in the community. Oh, dancing and all this kind of stuff. So it's like they learn. A lot of them had to learn from a bad experience happening, and then they then
not necessarily because because they grew up in the environment they came from in Africa, they have an understanding of particular, for example, let me say laws. They know the law of the country. You've now moved and migrated into a westernized world. You need to also understand the law of that country because you're not going to come from that place to the new place assuming that they have the same beliefs. Every single place has a different.
A lot of them are ignorant of that though. They don't know.
It's an environment because they learn. They can't be because our parents, when they come into these Western, they learn laws. They do learn new things. And this is where I say it's kind of hypocritical for us to say that because our parents, when they come here, they will know that, oh, I can't do this because this is bad. So you learn things that benefit you at the time, for example, money, whatever. I'm sure what a lot of our parents when they came, they knew that I can't do this because this is going to mess me up, this is going to get me sent back. So the same way you're learning about situations, that learn about your environment as well, and this will help.
You see, this topic, is very, very difficult because the young girls that probably want to educate the tonton to stop doing this behavior, sometimes some girls want to do it, some girls don't want to do it. And those girls that want to do it, they should feel comfortable to want to do that. And obviously some girls who feel like it's not in their place to educate some people, they should not stop those girls that actually want to have those conversations to do that. But I think also with men, we can play a greater role by actually approaching those tonton and actually educating them. And they might respect us that, mwana mukipe, azopesa mukolo conseil. So that might be a good way to actually solve the problem.
You kind of stay in tune with the different generations.
Problem is that exactly. First of all, we need to establish age limit is acceptable and age limit is not acceptable because it's just Congolese tonton, the older generation. I mean, like, what generation are we talking about? What age are we talking about? That makes it. Do you get what I mean? That makes it acceptable. Would it make it acceptable if the person was 2 years, 3 years older than them? Would it make it acceptable if the person was 5 years, 10? I think the age needs to be established. What age is acceptable?
Age, tonton, listen, tonton's got different age, in it. Like, someone can be under 25, they have someone who's under 17, 18, they'll call them tonton already. Like, regardless, me, I'm an uncle already. My nephew, they'll call me an uncle. Oling, I told you, tonton. But it depends on age, and everyone got different view on tonton. And some people think anyone that over 30 is a tonton. This. I can say, Pauline, you're over 30. Mama, you're an auntie. Oling, I told you, you're an auntie. Listen, it happens. You're not the only one. Like, there's another person that's over 30. They're also an auntie. Like, it happens. Yeah, it's part of nature. Like, you know.
I think like as we get business to Zokola, but Tonton wanna Bazosila. So you need to Bazosila, the new generation, they're not gonna do it. So I really feel like if you say something, you say it and you're able to go to the protest. But I feel like the uncles, even like those uncles that are maybe 45, 50, 45 plus maybe that range, but more come on, but you want it because they're thinking like it's not really us. I think like it's the older.
Nah,
really? I don't know about uncles.
Let's say about 35.
35 is an uncle.
35, you can
that's our generation. That's my generation. The guys.
I'm 40.
No, but I'm talking about our generation. So my generation, I'm 33.
Biologically speaking, Roko ma tonton a âge à 21, 22 ans, 25 ans. Mais, aux âges jeunes. Mais tant que tu as tonton, most of the time, tu as tonton par rapport à âge avancé.
So someone my age, they wouldn't.
But really and truly, in general, anyone can be anyone's uncle. So I don't even think using the term uncle.
But I'm saying our generation. He's saying somebody at 35, but he's saying somebody at 35 that's considered an uncle has this mindset. I don't think so.
An uncle at 20.
I know, but I'm saying in the sense of having this mindset, because
it gets passed down. I was just gonna say.
But I feel like the guys, they're you know 20-year-olds that have this mindset.
Can I add something? Yeah. I feel you guys are given an age according to your age. I feel like the age comes according to. I feel like it comes according to, like, let's say for example, if I'm calling someone an uncle or auntie, I'm seeing them the same age as my parents.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So around that age bracket, I'm seeing you as you are around the age bracket of the friends my parents would have. You understand?
Yeah, but Daniel's saying that someone could be 35, and I'm saying as a.
But then I guess it's according to.
I have nieces my age.
Yeah.
They call me auntie.
Yeah, I'm saying, but I'm talking about generation. I think you guys are getting me confused. I'm talking about generations. So, for example, someone I'm within the 35 bracket that he's calling uncle. My generation, they don't have this mindset that I think.
It depends on who is it.
I think you know 30-year-olds that have this mindset to date or to move to young girls.
Yeah,
you will be surprised.
What?
You will literally be surprised.
Yeah. That will definitely go.
But I think also it's like when we like our culture, when we say uncle, we mean a specific generation.
Yeah.
Or you can physically and biologically be an uncle at 30.
Yeah.
So I think we need to make that difference there. That the uncle
There's an
we're
age
referring to,
difference, there's an age
we need to
difference.
communicate na biso, but tonto, but tanti, to chat about like generation moko boy. But like biologically, that you said, you can still be an uncle, but you're 21, you're 30,
So
you're
basically, what I
25.
said, someone who's 21 can call someone who's 30.
That's my uncle.
That's my uncle.
I know.
I don't
The
think
age.
it's
No, I don't think it's that you guys don't understand. The age is not a problem for me. I'm talking about generations. So as we're in now, this year, 2021, there are generations of different uncles, okay? So you've got the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, and the 40-year-olds, whatever. I'm saying our generation don't have that mindset.
So he PD dia, he PD dia na Ashley. So I can go in.
But he's 50. He's 50.
Exactly, but that's PD. So someone even that's 20, I will accept and more.
Okay, but let's not focus on the number too much, but the actual individual. I feel like, okay, so she wants to go to a protest. Yeah, that's number one. It's no different to, like, right now I'm hearing mindset. I feel like there's excuses here that's making a question if she has to go. Because if a friend said let's go to a party, there's gonna be guys there.
She
You don't
said,
say,
"I'm
I'm
not
gonna go
really
to a
that's
party
exactly what I said.
because it's gonna be guys that, did you say that?
Like I said, you have to ask yourself, are you going for the hype or are you going for the cause? I elaborated, I spoke about, what's it called, BLM. A lot of people went for the hype because it was the phase in the moment. Instagram was all over it. So a lot of people went there. It was an excuse to be at your house during COVID, yeah? So when we're looking at these protests, and remember, 2020, there was hundreds of protests. Everyone was going to escape their homes, go meet up with their friends, and say that, hey, I was part of the protest. So you have to ask yourself, what's it called? When it comes to these protests that you're talking about, involving the uncles, yeah? Are you going for the hype so you can be there with your friends and say, hey, listen, I'm amongst the people that are fighting for a cause, or are you going for the actual cause itself? Because if you're going for the cause itself, none of that stuff there should matter to you.
I said that it doesn't
Even to
matter
the shop,
where
even to
it is.
you're still gonna find them
The uncle
everywhere.
can try
But then
anyway.
you'll still go. You understand? What I'm hearing is you're in two mindsets. You kind of want to, maybe you're going for the vibes rather than the actual cause.
Yeah. She wants to be moved to and not be moved to by uncles.
Yeah. Some people want to go just because of the hype.
Some
I
people
don't say, oh, listen to uncles, whatever.
Yeah.
Because if the cause was what you were going for,
Nothing.
you
That's
know,
what you know what I think? I'm gonna have to agree with that because if you follow that person that also sala likambuana, even if or put a people by challenges nanzela or sala. But if you're saying you come na sala, but because by challenges nanzela na sala, that means you really don't want to do it. You don't really want to do it.
Yeah.
Because if it was a party and you know that uncles are gonna be there, you know how to deal with it. You say I don't pay attention to it, I'm gonna go. So I agree with you.
But sorry to cut you, I don't think her uncle, like they don't want to, they won't embarrass themselves at a party.
Are you sure? Are you
They won't embarrass themselves at a party.
You're going to a protest that's about Congo. Most of the uncles and aunties there have come from back there, so this is going to be a bigger cause for them than you.
Yeah, because most of our uncles, when there's a protest,
Yeah.
none of the uncles uncles.
So this, and I'm not saying this is a fact, but my personal opinion is, you're more likely to get moved to by someone of your own generation than people that are older, because this is hitting home more harder than it's hitting you.
No, but they might see it as not profite. Like, these girls don't come often, so this is my time.
But then you know that, for example, we've had a lot of civil war going on back home, and a lot of people are migrating here, and they're seeing things that are going on back home. Their families are there, so for you to go protest,
Means you care.
the older generation are going to be more focused on this. Let me say my family is back home and where I've come from,
But
rather than the young
the
girls.
money wants you to I'm not going to take the opportunity to
that's
move
probably
to
after that happened, but you know that in the midst of it. But then at the same time, okay, so then that means we tackle two things. We have to now tackle how the younger generation, the older generation, can cohabit here and work together, and then also the solution of the protest. So if we focus on the girl, where's your head at? Are you going for the cause or are you going for the hype? And then the second one is, how do we then break that barrier of communication between the old generation and the younger generation?
But the thing is, calling a mwasi or calling a muntu in general, there's no place and time and place. It could be anywhere.
It's true.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So we shouldn't really focus all day
Is that
on
protest
protest. Or calling a anywhere.
You're going there to do something so amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said in the beginning. What's the reason for going there?
What you're worried about is a protest. She's going there already thinking about all this man them moving to her and uncles moving to her. That shouldn't even be the first thing that comes to mind.
I feel like I said, if she really want to go for the cause, that will not stop her from going to the cause. Because as someone said, you can go to the shop, you can see the same uncle, you go to a restaurant. They're not just at a protest, so it's not the location or the cause. The mindset is everywhere. It's how do you deal with that on your day-to-day life. Deal with it there at a protest or party or shops.
So can we agree, for the girls specifically, ask yourself, are you going for the cause or are you going for the hype? Ask yourself that certain question. Look at yourself in the mirror and ask that question. And then you can go from there. Number 2 now, so this is now generalizing this situation because multiple people are going to think that. How do we now break the barrier of communication between older generation and younger generation? Should we allow our girls of today to go forward and approach that conversation, or should it be a thing where the girls of today talk to the men of today who then bring that towards that message towards the uncles?
I think there's two ways.
I think
there's two ways because I think both of them will still get the same outcome. So for example, if you allow the young girls of today to actually approach that conversation, I think those who are willing, they should be allowed to do that. But if you're got the mindset that it's not my job to educate them, don't stop those who want to do the education to do that. I tend to find out with like a lot of but they don't agree on certain things. If you disagree with things, but you can't say because I don't believe in that, you shouldn't do that. And then the other way is waiting for them, the older generation, to come down. They're not going to do that because this is what they're used to. This is the norm for them. For them, you have to approach them if you want the change. But if you don't want the change, complain. They want it everywhere.
But I feel like naturally, older generation, don't get me wrong, they kind of look down on women anyway. So I feel like they'll respect it coming from, they'll respect it more coming from the men of today. My Tonton, you're just and then you'll feel kind of silly, like a younger boy is coming to correct you or pointing out your flaws. You understand? So I feel like it will be more beneficial for it to come from the men of today, because it actually shows that they also have the right mindset where we've moved on, times move on, and you need to stop that. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, despite time moving on, I definitely don't believe they would even respect or want to take criticism from the females of today. I think for them it would definitely be the men to speak to them.
They'll take the opportunity to move to you.
For women as a whole in society, not just a specific age. Because sometimes like Tonton wana pe bokin de balinga be na basia NICOLE. Bas la femme mariée. So it shouldn't just be focused on a specific age. It should be
it's the behavior
for every
it's an open range one.
This is why I really believe about changing the narratives. If we can really challenge some of those behavior and belief system as men, I think we have a really strong role to play, because that will also ease the load on our women as well, because they'll have people that are with a different mindset, with a new way of thinking. But I think the fallen generation, like you said, falling domino effect, that can't be stopped.
Can I ask you guys a question? What's the youngest age gap you would date?
Because I've got a younger sister who's 4 years younger than 3-4 years younger than me. I can't see myself with anyone younger than her.
Okay, so that's a benchmark. That's what you use. Okay.
Basically, that's simple.
What's yours?
My sister's about 22 now.
So what's that in age?
In age wise,
So what's that, like 4 years, 3 years in years?
Nothing lower than my sister. Probably 2 age up for my sister.
So what's the age gap between you and your sister? That's what I'm asking.
But a lot of people.
Don't.
No, I don't talk about. You know, people. You see, when you say something, people they'll calculate.
So what's your age gap? What's your gap gap.
So just not 2 years.
So you said 4 years, and then you said the 2
years away from my
your
sister.
And what about you?
No, wait, pause. I didn't say 4 years. I said my sister is 4 years.
Yeah,
but
so
I wouldn't go under her.
You wouldn't go under her. So that's 4 years.
No, yeah, she's 4 years, but I wouldn't even go for around her age. But I'm just
3
saying,
years basically.
maximum,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go her age.
Yeah, so that's 4 years.
So, okay,
So
this
what's
is
yours?
6 years.
Like for me, I want to answer it like in general, innit? Because I've heard a lot of men.
We haven't
talk
got a lot
about
of time,
this.
Sally.
But for me, I think a lot of men go for first of all the maturity. But for me, I think when you're looking at the mid 25, 24.
What's that in years?
Matthew, le papier. Pour la banda de tout your âge. Ozo pesa âge ozo kama kaka maturity lo papier parce que ma kam tozo boy ango yo lo papier.
I think probably like about. You know what? About 5 years.
So you wouldn't date a girl 5 years younger than you, and you wouldn't date 4, and then you don't know when it's closed. So, so that means you guys have got tontons. That's great. So you guys can go have a conversation.
Why does it not?
But what is it?
Tonton is just so it makes sure tonton if it's 10 years. I think if it's 15 years.
Yeah.
But if it's 5 years, it
Let's
doesn't
set
make
a
you a
limit.
tonton.
I don't think so.
I disagree. I think the problem is age.
It's the age.
That's what I said. We need
I think it's the gap. I think it's the
age.
gap. No, I think
We
it's
need
the
to
gap.
establish.
Alright.
Yeah. Either way, it's the age that is.
So basically,
So someone that's 30 can't date at 25. That's 25.
No, that's giving it tonton.
That's what I'm saying.
Even
So
if you're 35,
So guys, I have now gone into research perspective mode. I am officially collecting data from you guys, ladies and gentlemen. So I would like to know, what is the age range that you would date? Yeah. So I'm collecting data from Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, you name it. Wherever you can comment, I'm taking it all. I just want to know age range limit.
I want to ask the audience, what is the age for an uncle? A tonton? What would you
consider as a tonton?
As a gap. What's the gap? What's the
So
gap?
that term there is.
Tonton.
What's a tonton, please?
What's a tonton? Yeah, ask the question.
Please, what's a tonton?
What is a tonton? What's a tonton?
From what age do you class tonton?
Yeah.
No, as you know, tonton basically. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So please don't forget to leave your comment in the comment section below and tell us what is your view of a tonton or uncle, age and generation wise.
Yeah.
Wow, that's even if they're asleep, like their mind just tells them Suba.
I did not see this coming.